All right, we are live. Welcome, fiends, to Handle Whisker, presented by the Slashing Cast Podcast Network. We are a horror movie podcast that discusses horror movies and the phobias that they emphasize. With me tonight, as always, are both my co-hosts, Holly, Hooch, and John. And guys, here we are, another week for aquaphobia. Not quite as busy as our last recording, because we did have a full house last week for the Beach House episode, which kind of makes sense. We hop in, we have some guests, on top of that, so it was pretty fun. A little chaotic at times, kind of like the Beach House, but you know what? We definitely made it work, and it was a pretty lengthy episode. So all in all, a very good time. And tonight, I'm really excited for the fact that we're back to monster movies for aquaphobia, so it should be a good time.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this movie. But yeah, the Beach House. Our recording went longer than the movie, which is kind of unheard of. So for those people that really want to deep dive, do you ever see those reviews and they're like 10 minutes long? I'm like, what? You're just going to tell me the fucking plot? It takes a lot.
Synopsis or something.
Yeah. So I like that we really dive. I mean, I thought we had such an awesome, productive, awesome recording of the Beach House. So there's that. But today, oh my God. We've got...
It's back to normal.
Such a wonderful movie. The Host. And the good one from 2000.
Is that when it came out? 2000?
Oh, I'm sorry. It came out in 2006.
Yeah.
The lore is from 2000.
Oh, okay.
Lore galore! John, there's lore galore.
It even starts with lore, basically.
Oh, and I'm sure... Should we just jump right in, or did we need an intro?
Just a couple of podcast reminders, primarily with the watch parties hosted on Stream Lounge, which would be Saturdays and Sundays for Christmas in July, which has already started. And then, of course, we're doing Monday and Thursday watch parties. So, you can find all of our information on there. So if you just go to streamlounge.io, you can search us, Handle with Scare, and you can find our schedule over there. But been having an absolute blast doing that, and July's gonna be a very hectic month overall with the movie watch parties on that end. So go check us out there. But in the meantime, tonight we are here to talk about The Host, released in 2006. This is a monster movie, a very unconventional one at that. Has one of the better introductions to the actual monster that we have seen in just about any movie, honestly. And the monster, not your stereotypical Godzilla or kaiju, even in this case. He's almost reminiscent of a kidnapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess is one way to put it.
Somebody said that these movies could be Taken movies. But we should talk a little bit about the pedigree of the director and how this was. Did I read this right, or when I was that this is his first movie?
I thought it was, but I'm not 100% sure.
Is that not fucking insane? That this amazing fucking movie not only is considered one of his worst, but is his first. It's. I love this movie so hard. I rewatched it for the show. I watched it for the first time, many years ago. But watching it a couple of days ago, I was just blown away at how ridiculously good it is. And I'm so happy that we got the chance to watch it, and now we get a chance to talk about it. But we should mention that it's been a long day today. I am a little bit like sushi. I don't keep. So hopefully we have enough energy to really give this movie the energy that it deserves. Because
you just need to walk into the ocean to revitalize. That's basically what it is.
We're catching on. We're doing a twofer tonight. We're recording two movies back to back. That's why I'm wearing the same shirt. And just took a little break, and after doing the beach, and had a bunch of friends with us here, and so now we're doing the much bigger movie when you really consider it in terms of length and different plot twists. And we're already a little drunk. So.
Yeah, I mean, that always makes things more interesting. But just to reiterate, this was actually his third movie. He did Barking Dogs, Never Bite, and Memories of Murder.
Okay, I've never seen those. I should watch those.
Now, to be honest, I saw this after I saw Snowpiercer and Parasite. Snowpiercer was the first movie by this director
who that movie fucking good.
did Parasite. Directed by Bong Joon-ho,
Mhm.
who, Parasite winning Best Picture definitely was a monumental moment for cinema,
Right.
and it really opened up a lot of people's eyes to give foreign films more of an opportunity, because so many people in the American audience will
Mhm.
just write foreign movies off just in general because they don't want to read the subtitles,
And
or they don't want to deal with English dubs either, because if you're someone who watches anime or Japanese movies really and you deal with English dubs, you know how terrible they are, and I completely understand why people try to shy away from that stuff.
And no, you mean like there's been a couple times. I mean, when I was younger, I didn't give a fuck. Like subtitles all day long. And these days, sometimes I'm like, I just want something easy tonight. So I might not do a movie where I don't know the language. But this movie winning Best Picture, just miraculous, because this movie Parasite, because is it considered horror, or is it considered like a thriller?
Well, the interesting thing about that is all of Junho's movies are cross-genre.
Mm-hmm.
It blends so many different elements from different genres that it's really hard to kind of pinpoint what exactly each one is.
But I mean, I just thought it was a huge win, not just for foreign films, but also for the genres, because there's a lot of resistance in giving awards to horror. There's a lot of resistance to even giving awards to thrillers. So, and thrillers are what is the better marketing for horror movies, basically. That's, when you get a horror movie that's doing well, they call it a thriller. So it was pretty monumentous.
I mean, I would call this movie a horror movie.
Well, I mean, we're talking Parasite, but now we can go right back to now we can go back to The Host. And The Host, third movie, that's so ridiculously impressive. He did Snowpiercer, and then he did that other one with the Netflix movie.
Yeah, it was like Aksha or something.
Yeah.
It was another monster movie.
Like the animated hippo pig monster.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet. I want to see that.
It's good.
I haven't seen it either, to be honest.
What's that? You haven't seen it either?
I don't think I've seen that one either.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Yeah.
It's really good. It's good. I wouldn't say that, personally, I would say that the ones that we've been talking about are better, but the visual aspects are pretty, striking, and I didn't know that was him, actually, until we were doing a little bit of research for the movie tonight. But it's just, the dude is ridiculously talented, and it's just a real joy to see people, in their fucking prime, just artists in their prime, and we're right here to see it, and it's great.
This movie, for me, this movie stands out to me in a huge way, because back when it first came out, it was a theatrical release in America, and they did previews on TV and things in the traditional way that they would normally do with kind of a bigger budget movie, and did previews and things in the theater. And I saw a preview for this movie before it came out, or a commercial, I forget which, and it shows the sequence in the movie where you see the monster running. Somebody is watching it from the monorail tram train.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sort of like a handheld shot, and you see the monster running along out the window. And it looks totally real and convincing. And it was such a, I'm a huge, as all of us, I'm a huge movie nerd fan. And it was a huge moment for me. I'll never forget it, because it was the first movie or preview for a movie that I ever saw where it was oh my God, this is the first time I've ever seen a monster, a big sort of kaiju-esque type monster, interacting in the real world in a totally real, convincing way, where it was just I have to see this movie, because that's crazy. This is totally real looking.
Yeah, and they don't. The combination of the special effects that they use, which incidentally, it's not a budget film by any means, because I think the special effect budget was $11 million on its own. I think. And I remember seeing in some interviews that the director was ready to just do CGI, hey man, that's what we're doing today. And but he was convinced by some special effects masters to be hey, we got some pretty good tricks. Why don't we do a combination, And so doing a combination of different ways of expressing this monster. And you know what? I'm really reminded of, and I know you've corrected me this a bunch of times. Like on Avatar, I was saying how I really hated how the panning across some stuff on some like otherworldly stuff was so my eye couldn't fix on it, and it made me really annoyed. Like I felt like I was being tricked. But then you told me that I had to change the rate on it, like
were you using the smoothing or something?
I don't know what I was doing, John.
It's one of those crazy TV settings that
whatever it was, I was really upset. Not really upset, but just actually, I was really annoyed that here I'm watching a big old expensive movie, and it's got all these like crazy creatures in other world, and there was this weird element where my eye couldn't quite focus on what was happening. And I believe it was on purpose, to like, oh, look how crazy this is. Don't look too closely. And but not this movie. This movie, like, you get the fucking monster, and it is full on fucking monster, and you get to stare, you get to get a really good look, and I really fucking appreciate that.
Yeah,
kind of like the cat's asshole.
Yeah. 40 minutes ago.
I don't want to say it was ILM that did the effects, but they had a big Bay Area effects company do the effects. Cool. And it was one of these kind of big I don't think it was ILM, but it was another company that was kind of a big up and coming like CGI company.
Yeah, kind of. I'm trying to think back to that interview, and I'm having a hard time remembering the name. And the thing is, it might have not been the most notable name because it didn't stick in my head either. But yeah, I mean, like the monster was impressive, and not to anger anybody, but there was some stupid shit about that monster, like the little fishy sticking out. Remember that? Like he's got like one fish over here, like just the tail end, and another one over here.
Yeah, he's got like a little arm or whatever random.
They're not little arms. They're like bass. They're, I don't know, whatever fish are in the Han River. Like they're they're full grown, but like from like the back to the tail, and they're just sticking out. And then in a couple of scenes when he gets beaten up, I don't know if it was he. It could have been a lady monster. But a couple of times when they get beaten up, these fish will just detach and then flop on the ground.
Oh, I
don't know if you did. There was one scene where it gets hit, and then one of the fishes just comes flying out, and it's like flopping on the ground, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Nice.
So it's a little silly, but the fucker works. I mean, he works it. It's a really cool monster.
Hey, I'm just saying, like, if there's like monster fish, that would be a delicacy in restaurants where people would pay a premium. All the rich people, all that meat's probably a lot richer than what it would be otherwise.
So, in like a lot of his movies, there's a lot of subtext in this one.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much that you can read into, and I would love to, it would be nice to know if, you're right or wrong one day, but honestly, the beauty of it is just making your own, what do you call it? Just your own thesis on things. And so the monster is America.
Well, it starts out with the white American doctor.
He's so evil.
Ordering the Korean guy to pollute
the very
river.
Heartbroken. You can't do that. Doesn't that go into the Han River? And then he's like, the Han River.
Yeah, I need you to pour this massive amount of formaldehyde down the drain. But isn't that a biohazard?
I'm sure you guys read that this was an actual event. That this happened that's why I kept saying 2000 earlier.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
So this actually happened. It was revealed that in 2000, a military doctor that was a mortician ordered all of these chemicals thrown down into the river, and it did actually cause mutations. Nothing like we see in the movie, mind you, but they were like.
Well, okay, maybe the nine-tailed fish, yeah, or the three-eyed fish from The Simpsons.
Yeah. And that explains why, because I was kind of wondering why the formaldehyde was sort of oddly specific, and so that kind of explains it. Because usually it would just be like some undefined chemical or like a made-up chemical.
Or like the chemical from the Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, like Return of the Living Dead, where it's just like a made-up thing. But it was oddly specific that it was formaldehyde that did this.
So no, it was a real event, and it did cause some problems. I don't know the outcome of that, but it's very, it's of course very emblematic of
Was it
like
an American doctor
yeah,
who did it? It was.
It
originally.
totally was. And that's the fucked up part where it's like everybody knows better, but this guy just didn't give a fuck. He's like, yeah, fuck your river. My kids don't live here. You know, like that's really rough.
And it's the classic monster, kind of the 50s monster movie thing where, as we've talked about in other episodes, where you meddle with nature or you screw things up with nature and then you cause a monster to be born.
Turns out it's man.
The real monster
is
man, specifically
American man.
specifically Americans.
Nice going, guys.
Which I accept.
But it's okay. You know, we were the problem, but we also perceived ourselves to be the solution with Agent Yellow.
We also perceived ourselves to be the solution. That's a really beautiful way to put it.
It's that thing where we create the problem and then we create the solution.
Yeah. But yeah,
and all the meanwhile making major profits.
Totally.
And it's amazing, like because even that scene where the doctor is talking to the American doctor's talking to the scientist or his assistant, and such simple scenes, and already like the grime on the grittiness of the scene with like the wall of, I don't know what it was. I mean, I'm sure it was maybe like, I don't know, science lab shit. But it's just that every scene is so heavy with detail and style, and in a million years I couldn't do that. So it's sometimes you see movies you're like, yeah, I could do that. Other times you see shit you're like, oh. That's really, like, everything about it is just beyond fantastic. And to think that it was his third fucking movie, that's insane.
And it's great the way the creature is introduced, where you see it as sort of a little pollywog type of creature at first, and the fishermen catch it and release it back into the river again. And they could have ended it right there, maybe, but no. And then it's hanging under the bridge, and
it has all these like very natural ways of behaving like other animals do, which is pretty neat too.
Yeah, it feels like a real creature for sure. It's well made, and the introduction of it. I don't know if we're jumping too far ahead, but
it's a long movie. We can jump a little,
but
it's a 2-hour movie.
We get that great introduction of the main character where he's kind of this schlubby kind of loser,
with money stuck to his face,
the lovable loser character, and he didn't give enough tentacles with the squid to the one customer because he ate one, and height, which I've seen in other Korean movies. I think height is a real product. The drink, HITE, it's like a beer, I think. I think that must be a real drink. But you see that a lot. But the introduction of the monster in that part where they see it and
they're throwing shit at it, that was hilarious. What asshole. I mean, like, not that they're assholes, but it's like, first of all, you're littering. But second of all, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're throwing random shit at a fucking animal? Like, get away.
But when it first appears and starts, and it runs on the side, on that kind of bank of the river, and it's like slipping and falling and chasing people, is so great. That's, again, like, I have to bring up the realism of it, how it's really
clumsy
convincing.
On land. It's smooth in water.
And it looks real. Like, especially, it might look a little more dated now, but at the time that the movie came out, it was like, this is a real looking CGI monster.
And it blends so well with people. That's the other thing too, where we were just focusing on the look of the monster, but the way that people are managing to act along with this, made up creature, not made up creature, but with the CGI that must be involved. It blends so fucking well that you kind of forget that it's not real, but and that's just the monster. That doesn't even get into like the incredible like actors and the story that we're about to get into it.
And
so we were I was just gonna say, like, if you want to move into the talking about the lead,
the
King
lead guy. who's in Parasite.
Yeah, his dad. That dude can fucking
with his bleach blonde hair in this one.
Well, I mean, like it's a really interesting character where, like he's even like too pathetic, right? Like it's like why would anybody be so like that? But I don't know if I'm just like, but I mean he does of course the 180 because he has to. But that whole like everybody's so cool putting him down, even his own dad, and he just doesn't care, and he's just.
And his dad, I haven't looked him up, but the dad is an actor that I've seen in a lot of stuff. He's been in a lot of stuff, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but he looks really familiar. The grandfather, I guess you could call him.
Right.
The main character's dad. But yeah, no, he's kind of, he reminds me like of, not to get too meta, but he's such a kind of tropey character where he's like the lovable loser, like like
push him around.
I'm a good guy, but like I screw everything up
can't
and I
depend
can't do
on
anything
me.
right.
Yeah.
And but I'm a good person, and it's like.
Well, I thought it was it was heavy handed, but the movie does the 180 almost immediately, and where I saw this pointed out in another review where all of the characters, basically their biggest weakness, they fight so hard to regain the granddaughter. I'm trying to look at it. Hyun Soo? Wait, no. Hyun Se. Hyun Se. Okay. We're getting this eventually. But, and the reason that like it kind of blew my mind was because, well, I mean, we always see that the daughter or the aunt, she's a really well trained archer, but she always
she's competitive.
Olympics.
Yeah. So, but she always biffs it before. She just can't seem to make it work.
Relax.
And so of course that's her weapon of choice, which is totally like straightforward. But the uncle Nam Il, he's an alcoholic in before this whole thing is happening, and his weapon of choice are Molotov cocktails later. Which I thought was pretty fucking cool. Like somebody pointed out that I'm like, oh shit, that's interesting. And then of course Dad over here, he's kind of like, not really respectable, kind of a coward, doesn't have his shit together. And his biggest strength turns out to be his relentlessness and his courage. And then of course, and then I think that the grandpa was, he tells a story about how when they were younger, he had issues and he would never come home, and he would go out on binges, and then, of course, he ends up being there for his family until, like, he dies. So I thought that was really sweet.
a big family aspect of the film, for sure.
That was insane.
It's a family film in a weird way, for sure. But I want to, just to go back to the initial monster attack, one of the best scenes that I love in the movie is, and I don't think we talked about this on the recording couple of times ago, or not, but the shot where he's running away from the monster with his daughter and they fall down and there's some chaos, and then he gets back up and grabs her hand and is running again, and then he looks back and it's not his daughter.
With pigtails.
It's a different girl. That's such a great moment.
Like your stomach sinks, and then the camera pans over to his daughter getting like taken by the monster. The river monster.
Swallowed and regurgitated.
The kidnapper.
By the monster.
Well, not at that point. At that point, he's just got her. He
just grabs her by his tail, and that's a great shot too when he grabs her around the waist and yanks her, and she does the kind of
the reverse Superman.
Yeah. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, of course, this movie also kind of dives into infections through like the monster blood too, and it kind of like evolves later on to like a subplot in regards to like whether or not there is an infection, whether or not the virus is an actual thing, or if it was just all misinformation, or what have you. But of course, this kind of has like that contagion aspect where you have that sort of isolation or quarantine that is sprinkled throughout, and trying to break out of it. To defy whatever rules are being placed upon like you from the government, essentially, which was very timely if you've watched this within the past couple
Right.
of years.
Yeah.
But you know, I thought it was an interesting way to do it, just because like with this, you know, like in a lot of the zombie movies too, like, you know, we kind of go through the whole thing, and of course, like, what's the go-to way of dealing with it? It's always to just blow the fucking place off the map. But in this case, that necessarily wasn't the direction that they decided to take, which was a nice change of course. But of course, like, because America is pretty heavy-handed in this movie, you know, we're the ones who not only cause a problem, but we also try to see ourselves as the heroes in this entire situation too, which doesn't necessarily play out all too well for
The
us.
comedy aspects. I mean, I'm kind of bringing it back to the virus, but one of the most comedic moments and there's a bunch. One of the most comedic moments in the movie is when he's about to get lobotomized, and then there's that American scientist who's talking to somebody about how, like, we don't really know if there's a virus, and he's speaking in English, and he's going on and on about how, like, they don't know shit, and like, we didn't know that Gang Du like speaks English or understands English. Like, there's no fucking virus, and that was one of the funniest moments. So
that was definitely like the first. I've seen this movie now at least 3 or 4 times. And the first time I saw it, it definitely felt like a crazy left turn when it starts to become about the virus and that kind of stuff. Because it's like, wait. This was a monster movie, and now it's like a virus outbreak movie.
But it was short. It was like a false flag.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it was a misdirection produced by the government. But then you get back on track once, you know... in the movie, they are detained because after they interact with the monster... and the young daughter is taken. They go into quarantine, like you mentioned, and then people are separated between, like, did you literally touch the or interact with the monster, and then the whole contagion thing happens. And at this point, the family escapes the hospital. Well, actually, when he has that whole interaction with the scientist, it's a little later when he's recaught. But there's so much happening in this movie.
I know, this movie is like...
Oh my god. So they escape the hospital, and they manage to get some weapons.
Yeah, after they basically bribe a gang and spend like their entire life savings for like a couple of shotguns and this really shitty van.
But that was I mean, like, you don't, even in the Taken movies with Liam, you know, what's his name,
Liam Neeson.
Thank you.
Liam Neeson.
You don't get that level of I'm throwing my whole life at this.
Yeah,
like these guys, like, really, like, every little cent that they had, every ounce of dignity, so long as to get a chance to rescue the granddaughter or the daughter. Like, it's, you know, you don't really get that level of investment from other Taken movies.
When it felt real in terms of, like, it was like in real life where if someone disappears, like a kid disappears or gets kidnapped, and then the family is basically devoting all of their time and money to trying to get them back and, like, putting up flyers and going on the news and everything and talking about it. It definitely became that type of story too.
More intense, because I mean, like, these guys wouldn't be doing that. They'd be like walking the streets and talking to people and, like, trying to, like, you know, figure out how to find the kid versus, you know, asking for help.
And another thing I didn't understand until I watched the commentary track on it at some point was the part where all the people are meeting in the one area to grieve about the lost family members, and people are, like, really over the top grieving, and it's like, it's really crazy. And in the commentary, the director said that that's sort of a common thing in Korea, where when something like that happens, it's sort of a cultural thing where there's, like, this kind of over the top, sort of almost like performative grieving that happens, and it's like really, like, extreme. And he wanted to basically put that into the movie, and he thought, because just it's part of their culture. But that was definitely like a cultural thing where I was like, I don't quite understand what this part is. Like, I get what it is, but it's also, I'm not, this is unusual.
But then he turned it into another comedic break.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, he kind of makes fun of it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, the way that it's filmed, and then, like, you know, then, it definitely turns into Like I'm gonna call them comedic breaks because they don't last very long. They're only like 2 or 3 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one of the scientists in the hazmat suit, as he's charged to talk to people and tell them what to do, he like has that slip, So just little moments to just like really like he's so good at gauging how much pressure he's been adding to the audience and just letting it go in these tiny little portions of like here's a laugh, here's another laugh, here's another laugh, and it's so crazy to be in the middle of this roller coaster and then just get like a little treat like that to like relax. So I don't know. It really made the 2 hours really fly by.
And cool.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like it's 2 hours long. It's totally enjoyable the entire time. But there comes a point where you're like, okay, is this like the 4th twist? Like I feel like a normal movie would have had like maybe 2 twist tops, and we're like on twist like number 4 or 5.
It definitely goes a lot of directions for sure. It's not like an American movie where it's just focused on the one thing, the monster, and getting back it definitely covers a lot of topics. Like the director is definitely into making those social commentaries.
Sure,
where that's what I think his focus was on with a lot of that stuff, because he does it with Parasite and stuff like that, where he's like, I'm not just making a regular monster movie here, I'm making some comments about stuff.
Well, I mean, I know that you can there is a point where you can maybe alienate your audience by taking a stand, but also that big risk, big reward. You make a movie that resonates with people, and that kind of has that sort of a. Do we imagine we've been drinking?
I'm dropping stuff. All right, we're good.
But so I'm just saying, like, having that added layer of subtext it really adds a lot of flavor. It really adds like I don't know, like a big old fistful of salt. It's just it's there's just a lot more going on, and it makes the film that much richer.
What?
Yeah, so getting back to like the virus situation in the movie, basically the way that it's set up is, you have the authorities here who are deeming, that this mutated creature could basically be like this super host, essentially, as, the American soldier that we had met earlier, fighting alongside Gandu, had developed like some symptoms. He kind of had like a rash that he couldn't really explain, and they have like this social commentary that really tugs at kind of like the hypocrisies that the governments deal with when they are withholding any sort of information in these dire sort of situations.
Yeah, and using almost sort of, it kind of reminded me of the Spielberg Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where they fake that there's a virus outbreak, and they put all the cows and horses to sleep, or I think they actually kill them and make it look like there's a virus outbreak to keep people away.
American government.
And that's kind of what they were doing. The government was doing in this movie, where they had the fake virus outbreak to keep people away from the area and make it and sort of pretend like they knew what was going on.
That animal part is brutal.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But with the creature. But yeah, no, and that definitely, like, the shots of the fog, they were kind of had those weird fogging machines that they were like disinfecting people with or something. Was really cool. But definitely ahead of its time, as you were saying, with the whole kind of virus outbreak and the government and the information and stuff. I feel like that's something Asian countries like Japan and China and Korea have dealt with in the past more, but now with our current situation with like COVID and everything, now we're dealing with it. But that movie was kind of ahead of its time in a way, at least for us as an American audience, where they were kind of already dealing with that stuff,
Mm. Yeah, it also, like, this movie kind of revolves around the fact that we're always fearing the worst. Like, everyone just assumes that the daughter is actually dead throughout
Right.
the majority of this movie, but the Park family is still, hanging on to, that glimmer of hope that she is still out there and just, hiding out somewhere, which of course she is, because she is in, kind of like the
You know,
source, essentially, or, kind of like the
Yeah.
monster hideout. And one of my favorite scenes in this movie is actually when you see the monster kind of like vomiting up the bones of its victims down the pipe, and you just see them piling up down below. And I'm like, man, like that monster was fucking hungry, but he needed that second course on top of that when he drops down.
He sort of plans ahead. He kind of has foresight because he has his food that he's not really hungry, but so he doesn't eat her, but he brings her back to his lair and saves her for later to eat potentially. And there was another person in there too, right? Who was half kind of dead.
The one that she gets the cell phone from?
Yeah, wasn't there somebody who was still kind of alive, or was he already dead?
I think he might have been already. Well, actually, I don't remember quite well. But of course, she finds her friend, the little dude that was he homeless from the get go?
Oh yeah,
like
that's right.
Like abandoned, like an orphan.
That's right.
He just gets adopted at the end. It's like, well, did he have parents?
I forgot about this.
Is he the little kid that's reaching for the little
who
food?
Tries to steal the candy at the beginning?
And so he was hungry, and so at the end he finds a home where there's. I mean, I don't know if this is the right time if we want to save it for later, but there is a lot of food scenes in the movie, and I mean, considering how crazy of a monster movie it is, I mean, there's definitely symbolic of just that's what you do with your family, right? You sit around a table and you eat, and these these scenes of them eating are not like these casual munch chat. Oh, how was your day? It's just getting down to business, just eating, which is what you do with your family, maybe you talk for a minute, but after that, it's chow time. And I don't know, they're very wholesome, and they're very humanizing scenes that just add a whole lot of magic to the movie.
Yeah, definitely a big family element, which we've said, but a huge that's a huge central theme of the movie is the family and them sticking together and rescuing the daughter, keeping the family together. And that's a big theme even before the monster, of course, because they've got their business, which isn't necessarily doing that well, and they don't make a lot of money, and so they have to kind of keep things together between them and make it work. And then basically you have this monster come in, and it's kind of the same situation for them. They just have to keep making things work and keep surviving through the situation. Regardless of what's happening, basically in the world or in life, he's got the deeper themes. The director, for sure,
deeper themes, and then tiny little details, I mean, I'm sure you guys noticed the whole Gangdu. He meets his daughter right after she gets out of school, and she's walking along, and he's kind of not chasing, but she's keeping her pace, and he's changing his pace to stay with her because he's more excited to see her.
He wants her to like him.
There's a imbalance there in terms of that, and he does this the sweetest thing I've ever seen, which is he lifts her backpack so that the burden on her shoulders is a little less, and it's just such a tiny little detail that's so. I don't know,
he's got the collection. Volumes. He's got the coin collection to get her a new cell phone.
And she's like, "Damn, this is fucking changed."
Totally. Well,
yeah, this is nothing but dimes. No, there's some quarters in there too.
Yeah, it's a thing where the parents have to kind of give the kid a life, make things good for them, but that the kid doesn't know what they're doing to make that happen for them.
And so she starts off the movie being somebody who doesn't appreciate the sacrifice that others are doing for her, and then of course she sacrifices for somebody else.
Totally.
Sorry, it was sad. It was a good movie.
It does have the happy ending, of course, but
well, I mean, she dies, so it's almost
does she die?
She totally does, John.
Did I forget how it ends?
So the monster gobbles her and the little kid up. And then later, Gyeongju like kills the monster with the help of everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And then the monster, no, he goes in there and somehow just sticks his hand, grabs her, pulls her out. She's holding on to the little kid. They're both passed out, and they're holding her, they're touching her, like, you know, her face and stuff. The uncle and the aunt, and she never wakes up, but the little kid wakes up. And
is that what it is?
Yeah, and then he ends up getting like sort of adopted, and the very last scene is Gyeongju like having dyed his hair back, or at least grown it out to his natural color, because he was identified at one point by his blonde hair, right? Mm-hmm. And then him and this little kid, who I think is the one that was stealing the food earlier, are like again having that scene of like lots of food chowing down, and it's nice and cozy in the little snack shack. Mm-hmm. And the little girl doesn't make it.
For some reason, I thought she did. I forget.
Because you really want her to, because it's like, and now we wake up. And now we wake up. And she's waking up now.
And it's kind of reminiscent of the end of Poltergeist, when the girl, when they come out and they're all covered with goo, and she might not wake up, but then she does wake up. Mm-hmm. I'm probably mixing it up with that.
Yeah, she did. She died.
That's probably what it is.
But it's like, I don't know, I think it was relevant, or it made sense, because like the whole family sort of did the 180, right? Everybody in the family had the 180, and that was her 180. Like, not that she seemed like a nice girl, but she was a little bratty with her dad. But she always received people's sacrifice, and at the very end, she sacrificed. Mm-hmm. So that was neat. That was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. And they spend their whole family fortune to get the map for the underground sewers.
And then they were like, stupid dad, that was a dumb way to fucking spend the money. And then it worked out. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, like, so we went from a monster movie, contagion movie, breaking out of the hospital and rallying the troops movie, where you were like...
Yeah, and then the news basically telling everyone, hey, watch out for these guys.
And then you even get like going back to the... It seemed not out of place, but it was kind of like, oh, now you get another treat. When Nam Il goes to his office because he's heard from a coworker that he could get some information, and then it was a trap because there's a bounty on their head. And so that was a crazy scene where he's at his computer, and then there's like this office, which that conference room must have been fucking gigantic, because like 200 people come out at him, right? and they're all I don't know, that was a wave of people coming to get what was probably going to be like $2 per person bounty if they fucking caught him. So that was pretty cool. I like that.
I feel like this is the better Cloverfield, basically. Ooh. This movie and Cloverfield are kind of side by side, but this is like the more successful, kind of better done version of that movie. And this is before Cloverfield. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. But
yeah, I think so, right? I mean, 06 versus probably like 2010.
Probably 10, yeah. But yeah, because it's not beholden to the Hollywood style where it has to stick to the one thing. It takes so many turns. It's like one movie, and then it becomes a different style of movie, and then a different style of movie again.
Right.
It's like it changes style in each act almost.
And not only that, but like all of the main characters tend to have, well, not tend to have, but they have their own little side stories that meet up back at the end, which I feel like I'm trying to think if you see that a lot. You know, usually like there'll be people break off in groups and then things, but I mean, like you've got Nam Il, who ends up meeting the homeless man that he later recruits to help. And then you've got Namju, who like tries to shoot an arrow at the monster in the sewers, but she doesn't do it in time and ends up getting knocked out for a little while. And then, wakes up.
Yeah, she hesitates.
Right,
just
and
like
then you've got Genju, who like gets recaptured, sent back to the hospital to try to get lobotomized, holds the nurse hostage, which, oh my gosh, by the skin of his teeth.
And that's a definite like thing that kind of like where again like this movie is kind of brave enough to do things that an American version of this movie couldn't do, where in an American movie the fact that the archer girl, she hesitates and fails in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
In an American movie, she would successfully shoot the arrow later. You know, it'd be like, now she successfully shoots the arrow and hurts the monster. But it, like, happens again.
Yeah, they delay it for her. I mean, she gets it at the end,
but it's kind of more realistic, where it's just like, this isn't like a Hollywood movie where it's going to be like the action movie where everything works out perfectly. Yeah. It's more grounded in reality, where the characters are not, like, they do heroic things and they act heroically, but they're not superheroes. You know, they're regular people.
That's interesting that you say that, too, about the people being heroic, because it wasn't just them. Like, a lot of people, basically all of the good guys, let me rephrase that, everybody there that wasn't, like, the military, whether it was Korean or American, everybody was super fucking courageous. So you got, like, the protesters. They're protesting by the water, where they know there's an active fucking monster. They get doused with Agent Yellow.
Yeah, they get sprayed.
Yeah, like, and they're just, like, holding on with their signs, like, free gang do. I'm like, really? That was quick? Because he's only been holed up for, like, a day, you know? And, I don't know, like, I like that a lot, because it made me feel like a dud. Like, I should be more courageous in my own life. Because I'm like, these guys just fucking woke up today. We're like, hey man, we're extras, but we're going to protest. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was really cool how the movie really highlighted everybody's ability to become a really courageous person in the face of adversity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we see that with the daughter too, when she tries to make her grand escape from the sewers with the clothes rope from all the dead victims from the monster, which was a really cool scene, because, you know, you have like that kind of like, I'm not gonna say it's a cliche, but like the whole thought process of, okay, I'm just gonna climb up this sleeping monster's back, try to make a jump for it, and then sure enough, she basically gets tail swiped and brought gently back down on the ground, which I thought was an interesting touch, because, you know, normally, you know, the monster would probably be kind of pissed off about you trying to actually, you know, not be the next snack, or, you know, however way you want to put it in this case. But, you know, you build up the courage for that moment, and then, of course, you know, all the meanwhile, she's still trying to shield her new friend in the sewer from, you know, the ongoing you know, situation as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, this movie is an example where when there's a really good up-and-coming director, they can make a more low-budget kind of genre movie, and it will be, it's like, oh my god, this is really good. You know, because the director is able to basically create something better out of the smaller budget and smaller stuff that they have.
I mean, shoot, like, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is that he does that's so different from other people. I mean, I'm sure that people, connoisseurs, better film buffs are able to do that, but for me, it's like, I don't know how to say it, but this is just miles better than most things.
It's just doing everything differently. It's not an American movie, and it doesn't follow the American movie tropes for a monster movie, and so I think that's a big part of what makes it cool. And to compare it again to Cloverfield, it's what makes it a better movie than Cloverfield, because Cloverfield is very much a traditional American movie where it's kind of single-minded about what it's doing in terms of, like, the hero has to rescue the girl in the traditional way. But this movie totally, I hate to use the term subverts expectation, because I always feel like this movie is not trying to subvert expectation. I think it's just from such a different perspective, coming from a Korean filmmaker living in Korea and raised in Korea, that it's just a different perspective. It's like a different, we get like a different movie just by that fact, where he's telling his version of a monster movie, you know. And it's not the universal Frankenstein or Mummy. You know, this is a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Or Creature from the Black Lagoon. Although it does kidnap a girl, it doesn't try to have a romance with the girl.
That's good. She was only 12 or 10 or 9. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, she was pretty young.
I don't know
ages, so there was that.
Kids' ages. I don't hang out with a lot of kids.
You know, if she were a hot scientist, you know, game on.
What what was I gonna say? No, yeah, I kind of lost that thread. What do you got? What do you got, T?
Oh. Well, we've mentioned Agent Yellow a few times, so I feel like we should probably just state what that was. So basically, Agent Yellow was a state-of-the-art chemical that the United States was deploying, and they developed to basically nullify the effects, such as, like a virus outbreak or like biological weapons. And, in a very stereotypical fashion, U.S., deploys this despite there being a plethora of people in the vicinity of it as it's going on. But the first time I saw this movie, I couldn't stop laughing at just like how awkward the thing looked, because it just felt like a wacky waving arm flailing tube man, like Spider, essentially.
The monster is great in that way, where it isn't really like intimidating looking. It's not like monstrous in a Hollywood way. It's more natural looking. Like, it looks like a messed up mutation that you would see in a real fish that's more normal sized, where it has like the birth defects and just it's been
Yeah. Were you talking about the robot, the yellow robot that administers the Agent Yellow, though? Oh, the little
yeah, it was kind of like an arachnid.
Almost. Oh, right.
When it's like floating.
That looked really anime-ish to me, like something that you would just see, like that's very sci-fi-ish.
Yeah, definitely. And it makes me think of
that's drone / that's a big ass drone, basically.
And that might be like a commentary on America too, because there's Agent Orange. Mm-hmm. Which is from the Vietnam War, where it was a chemical that America was spraying on foliage in Vietnam.
And I thought I saw somewhere that they actually used it in Korea as well.
That's probably true. I mean,
and so there's a lot of like just referencing abuses from the U.S. on Korea, and it's not good, guys.
Definitely. Yeah, no, just kind of the chemical warfare and the misinformation and kind of manipulating the public.
Sorry, guys.
There's definitely that, like, I like the intro of the movie. It's just like,
the intro
I can't be
so
mad.
over the top, and then to find out it was actually real, you're like, no.
Totally. But it's like, even if it wasn't real, it's just like, you can't really be mad about that. It's like, we have to kind of own that.
He also threw in the nice American soldier who was fighting the fish. So that might be a little like, guy who helped out. It's just the guys at the top. Totally. Everybody else, we can be cool.
Yeah, there was that guy who helped out when the monster
he was very courageous. I mean, he fucking worked so hard to beat up that monster and then got eaten.
And I love the scene where the monsters in the initial monster attack, it's rampaging around, and there's a random woman who's running away from the monster, and she tries to run into the building, and they lock her out.
It's a cart. It's like a trailer.
It's like a or like what we used to call a. I can't remember. We used to have school in those buildings.
They're like
a
mobile
or something,
home or
a
but mobile building.
It's so well. I love how it's like she tries to go into the
jumps
building
over the rails to get away from
and they lock her out, and it's like, oh, those assholes! They locked her out. Now she's gonna get killed, and then it. But basically, like, bypasses her, smashes into the building, kills everybody inside the building.
The building is this big, and the monster is this big. So when he's in there, everybody's within his reach.
Totally.
Although some people make it out, though. Like, I guess the people that were near the tail.
But it's that great little kind of morality tale where, like, the people were assholes and they didn't help her, and then they all died and she lived.
There's so many, like, just scenes of mayhem that are available in the movie that it's just, I guess it does a really good job to keeping you entertained and getting all those high kill counts, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately for the Park family, though, once they do find out that the daughter is dead, not really a lot of time to mourn in this situation with the monster weakened from Agent Yellow. I mean, it's definitely having an effect. It's slowly withering, but, it does allow them to, band together to basically, get their vengeance by, the mixture of weaponry that they do have, throwing the Molotov cocktails. You also have the fire arrow that the archer shoots off after, leaders of liquid fuel
the
are
random
dumped on top of the
homeless dude
monster.
that helps out really like a lot. that was a good job. Thanks, dude. Were you done? I don't think you were done with your list of.
Oh, and then of course you have the moment where like the monster's like, oh shit, like stop, drop, and roll, bitch. I'm gonna run towards the water to try to like put myself out, right? Doesn't quite get there because it does end up getting impaled by that iron rod by Gaindu in this case. But like I really thought, of course, at the end of the movie, what a very fitting end in regards to like the whole like news broadcast where you have the U.S. government, just coming out saying like, oh yeah, there was no virus. All this was just like spread misinformation. Nothing really happened here, and it's just like, of course, the U.S. would deny any sort of responsibility
and it has
in
a
this
really
situation.
sweet ending. I mean, the ending we already talked a little bit about it, where he's still working the snack shack, and now the kid is there, and instead of being this place that was boring him to death, and just he was really responsible for, like, I guess the whole point, like, everybody valued the family afterwards, and he values having this kid who's, well, let's be real, he's a replacement for his daughter. And he's, they're sharing all this meal, but he has that moment where he's looking out the window, right, and he thinks he sees something, and he's got his gun, and or his rifle, and he stares into the darkness, and I was staring so hard. I was like, is it there? Do you see it? Do you see another one? And then he puts it down and he continues eating and continues his night. So, basically the ending, it's like, you're never safe. Don't pretend that you are. And then, but also like, move on with your fucking life, like nobody's really ever safe, and enjoy your time with your new kid. and like, there was real happiness and warmth there, despite the fact that there's always a looming, danger of another gnarly fish.
Another giant monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the result of the U.S. government.
It's like the inevitable, we're involved in some way or not. It's like...
But there's so many different relationships like that. It's like, oh, it's a Tuesday. It's so common. It sucks. But it made for a very good movie.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Did we miss anything? I mean, we didn't talk about the sewer. We talked about the sewers a little bit, but there's not much. Other than like this sewers. Ocean or river monster decided to like keep his snacks because he was keeping them alive.
Yeah, he was storing them for later.
Yeah, so you store them where they can live, like us putting fish in a bucket for later. Yeah. I get it now. Yep. I get it.
It was kind of smart.
It's a smart fish.
But it was cool looking. It had little like arms and appendages sticking out randomly, and it just kind of looked like a fish with legs, basically.
It really did. And it was, I mean, like I was saying, with like the weird fish sticking out of him, he looked a tiny bit dopey, but you kind of change your mind after he fucks shit up.
And it's great, the shot of it hanging under the bridge.
Yeah.
And people are trying to figure out what it is. And then it sort of drops into the water and everything is really cool. Like, it definitely wasn't just a regular monster. Like, they kind of went through the trouble of having it be, like, showing it sort of living its life and behaving like a real creature, kind of, it's not just like this kind of monster that's like, rawr.
I wish I would have seen like a little aftermath with auntie and uncle, because I mean they were pretty transformed as well, and they were alive at the end, so it would have. Yeah,
I wanted to see her get a gold medal,
get his
instead of settling
together.
for bronze.
It definitely brings the family together because at the beginning of the movie they've all kind of gone their different ways and they're not really communicating that much.
The dad's death, it was almost sadder because he didn't get it eaten. It was almost sadder because it was just like a head injury. Like that was pretty devastating. And then the fact that he couldn't go see his dad because immediately like the military like descended on him and he got taken away. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that sort of like quick death, senseless. Like not even with the excitement of fighting a monster.
Mm-hmm.
That was sad.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm okay, guys. Okay.
Great movie.
Yeah, definitely one to check out if you haven't had an opportunity to see it yet. But thankfully, it's not the only kind of creature feature that we'll be talking about still, because
Yeah.
next week we'll be talking about Alligator, released in 1980, directed by Louis Teague, which is, I've mentioned Jaws ripoffs all the time. This one is definitely my favorite out of the lot. Grizzly would also be up there pretty highly as well. But this is one that I have, I never got to see it as a kid, but I saw it as an adult. I was like, how the hell did I miss this? And it wasn't available for a long time. It was one I had always known about, but just finding it because it was out of print, and then we didn't know anything about a Blu-ray release. So it's just like, well, when am I going to get an opportunity to see this? And sure enough, it recently had a 4K release. It has been streaming on Shudder as well. So I'm just so thankful that after all of these years, more people are getting an opportunity to see it. And there are some definite moments in this movie where it's fairly obvious that what you're seeing is like a miniature set.
That's wonderful.
Just with the way that the cameras are set up,
guys,
which is fantastic.
I'm excited.
And also very timely.
Definitely same. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Ooh, that'll be good.
Nice.
Hey, I know. Speaking of Shudder, there's that new movie that just came on that everybody's crazy about. Something God. What? Yeah.
Oh,
Mad
yeah,
God?
I watched that.
Yeah, Mad God.
It's
Mad
good,
God.
yeah. I watched it.
Can you give me a little?
I'm
Really?
streaming that tomorrow.
Sounds like I might have
on Stream Lounge. Yeah.
Stream.
I forget his name, but it's one of the big special effects guys, I think from ILM, and he worked on Star Wars and the original trilogy. And the backstory is that he kind of, for the last couple of decades, he's been making this animated movie, and then he kind of dropped it for a while and stopped working on it. And then some people kind of inspired him to finish it, and he finished it, and now it's out. And
that's exciting.
I watched it; it's really good.
I've been saving it for a good night. Where let me make sure everything's planned out. It's dark outside. I don't have any plans, and the title's fantastic. So Mad God.
Yeah.
It was a 30-year
I saw the rating
ordeal.
on that shit. It was like all the stars.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck. Okay.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Party at the lodge.
Totally.
Okay.
Nice.
Well.
Yeah, so we got Alligator next week, and of course, we'll have Aquaphobia throughout the remainder of July before we start our next one.
I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. We still have another month of.
I don't think we have as of yet, but we'll figure that out shortly. Good. But in the meantime, if you guys are looking to contact the show, of course, you can find all of our video content on YouTube at HandoWithScarePod. You can reach us over on Twitter at HandoWithScare. And, of course, you can email us to, send us questions, movie suggestions, phobia suggestions at handlewithscarepod@gmail.com. But with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to another episode of Handle with Scare. This has been episode 67, talking all about The Host. I've been your host, Totally Drunk, joined as always by my co-hosts, Holly, Hooch, and John, and we'll see you guys back next week for Alligator. You have a good night. Enjoy your week.